So.
We're recording.
Hi, for Michelle Online, this is Ann. Charlie has let us know that he is running a little late, and we already knew from an earlier email message from Diane, our other co-chair. So Charlie had asked that I go ahead and get us started, and when he gets here, he will take care of taking care of being chair. So Michelle, you're there, so do you want to say hello to the group, and then we'll introduce the people here in the room.
Muted.
So, when everyone, when Michelle comes online, maybe we'll hear a beep. So since we have a new person in the room, maybe we'll go around. Cheryl, you want to start at that end?
Sure. I'm Cheryl Hill. I'm the Technical Services Librarian here at SELCO.
Brad Hoggensdorf.
Jonathan Lambert, SELCO.
Tyler Irvin, SELCO.
Ann Hutton, SELCO and South.
John Pfeiffer, I'm on the Owatonna Library Board.
Don Overly, Owatonna Tech Policy Committee.
Mary Kate Beltis, Owatonna Public Library. I'm an alternate on the committee.
And today you are a voting member, looks like.
Okay.
Pat Johnson, Stewartville Public Library. Designator, Stewartville Schools.
And you also are a voting member today because Diane is not here.
All three of you are.
So, okay, Donovan is projecting in order to. Hi, Michelle. This is Ann.
I had the computer on, even though I had off my phone. But hi, I'm Michelle McCautry with Wabasha Public.
And she's the small library representative. I'm chairing till Charlie gets here, Michelle. So we have approval of the agenda. Was there anything that anyone needed to add, change, delete?
So, James won't be presenting.
James is not presenting, but Donovan is going to do an update on cloud technology and our general outline of our plans for the future with the cloud. Then I'll just declare the agenda approved by consensus. Unfinished business. So for those who were at the user group meeting, which I don't think was anybody. Nope, Pat was here. Some of this might be a little bit known, but Cheryl's going to give this committee an update on RDA. And I've already had one question, Cheryl, what RDA is, and I can't remember. Research Descriptive Authority?
Resource Description and Access.
There you go.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I just don't think you're calling it RDA. Resource Description and Access. So I don't want to make this too technical since there are non-librarians here and non-catalogers here. But basically what I did at user group was I sort of went through the changes that have been happening since January when I did my last RDA update. So for those of you who aren't catalogers, poor Pat was in my class on Wednesday. That was all RDA, so she's probably all RDA'd out. You did a great job. Thank you. But so what RDA is the data code, the rules behind how we put the information into the catalog. So you all go to Aqua Browser and you do searches for information. Those searches are pulling off of what's called the MARC record. And the rules that tell you what to put where in the MARC record was called ACR2 and it's changing to RDA. So that's how you know to put your title here, how to know what to put from the publisher and put it where in the record. So that's what basically is changing right now. And it's changing because our old data standard, which was called ACR2, was developed in the 60s and then changed in the 80s, and it was made for a print world. And it was made to describe material. RDA is all about getting the libraries to a place where our information can be more connected to the outside world. That's the whole design behind it. We take a lot of data and we squish it into one record. What RDA wants us to do is cut up the pieces of that record, throw them into the air, and connect them with a bunch of lines so we have a web of data. instead of just one MARC record with a whole bunch of information in it. If we can separate out some of that data and interconnect it in new ways, then we can take the library's data and connect it to the databases we're all paying for. We can connect it to the internet. We can do Google searches, and then it can tell us, oh, you've done a Google search on, I always use Prince William because he's extremely attractive. So you can do a Google search on Prince William, and it will pop up and say, oh, did you know that your library has 2 books currently available on Prince William? That's kind of the idea, is that all this information that we house in our little database, we call the Horizon, and then Aqua Browser, gets to be more accessible by the outside world. So in order to get there, we have to first sort of separate our data. Then we have to rethink the structure of our ILS system. We have to rethink our data code. And then somebody who's much smarter and paid a lot more money than I am will figure out how to take that data and connect it to the internet. So we're in the first of many small steps, and that's what RDA is. It's transitioning us slowly to the internet, to the larger information world by baby steps. So the big update is that the Library of Congress has now transitioned themselves as of March 31st, which is the date they chose, and it happens to be a Sunday because they didn't want to choose the Monday, which was April Fool's Day. So my jokes get stale if you come to all my meetings. You know? But Library of Congress has now transitioned from ACR2 to RDA. And so where we get most of our data from, the Library of Congress is now using this new data standard. So goes LC, so goes all the other libraries in the country. So we are slowly, all of us are embracing RDA and are moving on this first of many small steps. Let's see. There's been a lot of updates with what are called authority records. Authority records are the things that work in our database to combine records together so that when you do a search for J.K. Rowling, you find all of J.K. Rowling's books, not just one of them. You find all of them together. And so the Library of Congress has changed, following RDA rules, a lot of the ways these authority records are handled to kind of separate out that data. We are getting most of these through a company that we outsource our authority work through called Marchive. Marchive has sort of been taking care of delivering all these 650,000 new records. There's absolutely no way one institution could go through and handle all these in one person's lifetime. So Marchive is doing this sort of automatically and sending these records to us so we have the most current, the most up-to-date data. They are actually taking our old records too that I send them, and they're updating them to this new data standard as well. So they've been, the big change that has happened with RDA is that our records have built within them something called the General Materials Designator. We call it the GMD for short, and this is what tells you that the thing is a DVD as opposed to a VHS tape. So it's the format. That has changed in RDA. So behind the scenes, it has really greatly affected how we are able to utilize Horizon to find the different formats of the same title. How do you do a search when your staff members at your desk looking for Gone Girl, a big bestseller, and it's in print, it's in large print, it's in audiobook unabridged, it's an audiobook abridged, it's on a playaway, and it'll probably come out in a movie in a year or two. So how do you distinguish the different formats? RDA has changed that, so internally we have devised a way to maintain that usefulness of the different formats. So I talked about that sort of in detail at the user group meeting. For those who are doing the actual inputting of the data, they would come to my class like Pat did and learn how to do it. So We also are offering classes here at SELCO on how to utilize this new data and how to work with the Library of Congress's data. We had our first class on April 30th, and it was a long class, and it became apparent that we sort of needed to split it into two. And so now we have two classes. We have a fundamentals class that is more basic. It's more designed for people who are not familiar with any of the things I've just said, like MARC or RDA or AACR2. Take the fundamentals class. You learn all that sort of stuff. For those that are familiar with those fundamentals, then they would take the second class. So you don't have to take the first class in order to take the second class. It's not a prerequisite unless you are not comfortable with those basics. So we're offering basically one a month for the next year, and everyone's going to have to come and take a class and learn this new code, and then we'll be up to snuff with what's going on in the larger world of library databases. So that's kind of it. And hopefully as much layman terms as I can make it. So, any questions?
So this is Ann Michelle. Michael and I were at the Min-Lake Gateway Administrators meeting, March, and it was amazing the number of gateway sites in large locations even that have done no work, nothing on RDA. So we really owe Cheryl a debt of gratitude for getting us where we are, making it understandable, putting together a plan, being enthusiastic about something that maybe the rest of us should be enthusiastic about, but just can't necessarily quite get there.
The running joke about RDA with a lot of catalogers is that it doesn't stand for resource description and access. It stands for retirement date approaching. They don't want to deal with it. It's a big change. So,
Ann, I just want to say, Cheryl mentioned that I took the class yesterday, and it was very informative, and it's well worth people's time to take this class. I learned a lot. I'd kind of read about it, but it doesn't make sense until somebody actually shows you how you're doing these things. So thank you very much.
thank you. Glad you learned a lot.
The classes have been, this class was full. The class that she did the other day was full. In fact, we had to bring in an extra laptop to make sure that we could accommodate everybody. We have waiting lists on the next two classes. So, you know, people are actually signing up and taking the class. So again, we're well ahead of the curve. If other regions are just now thinking about the fact that they have to do something with RDA, we're already having staff that are doing it, as well as the reality is that the records are starting to look different.
Yeah. I mean, once the Library of Congress does it, you start seeing things.
So, you know, we really need to be cognizant of the fact that our database and the data in our database is going to be looking different. So Charlie is here. I'll turn it over to you. Thank you. We are
I see that.
we're to where Tyler needs to come in unless there's any other questions for Cheryl. Do you need to stay? You're welcome to stay.
I'll stay till 4, and then I have to drive to Zimbrota.
Got it. Okay.
Great Gatsby tonight.
I trust you explained the reason for my tardiness.
No, I just said Charlie was going to be late.
Well, I had lunch and I sat down in a chair in the living room and I woke up at 2:45.
I was hoping it was something as mundane as that and not the fact that you had a trip to the emergency room or something.
Well, I can tell you about my broken ribs on a motorcycle trip where I slipped in the bathroom.
Oh.
That was way more exciting.
I'm glad you just fell asleep. Okay.
On to business.
Yeah.
Tyler, represent enterprise implementation.
Okay, well, as you're all aware from our listserv, we had a severe snag when it comes to enterprise, namely being that we don't have item level requesting available. This was something that came up when I just sent off one of my emails going, I can't figure out how to do this to our tech. Can you just turn on the item level requesting for me? And he wrote back, that isn't an option in enterprise. At which point, Donovan and I went, what is going on.
And I would add to that, that was specifically addressed in the demos when we were looking at the solutions. And we were told that that was slated for release in the next version of Enterprise, which was to come out.
We were told it was slated for the next month, even.
Right. And so the update for Enterprise that was supposed to have that came and went a couple of months ago. It did not make it in there. They ran into some kind of problem. It's now slated for the next version, which is to be released this fall. Our launch date was set for August, so that's close, but it's not quite going to help us. So we have pushed ours back. We have not set a time on that. We're waiting to see if, in fact, that functionality really does show up in the fall. So we did talk about it. It was supposed to be there. It didn't get neglected. It just, they didn't come through on it.
Mm-hmm. That combined with,
It sounded like from the lecture of this Van Holkinson, it sounded pretty unanimous that everyone agreed that we just wait.
It was. Yeah, I heard from no one who advocated going up soon without it.
Well, that's nice. Everybody agrees.
Everyone agreed. Yeah, we should just wait.
I think
because really, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think Sherry was the first one who jumped in, and I thought, from my point of view, summarized it. That we're going to a new system that's supposed to look and act better, and then we're going to take away functionality that patrons have had since 2003. So it doesn't leave the best feeling about an upgrade and new functionality when you lose something that people are saying they're using 25% of the time.
That is a vital part of our system, particularly when it comes to requesting DVDs or other materials that might be split up on the same big record.
And honestly, the August release date was, I wouldn't say it was completely arbitrary, because certainly some thought went into it. It was a good window to do things. But there's nothing really waiting on it. There's really no reason it can't wait other than we hate to wait, because we're all impatient to get this thing running. But it's not going to impact any other services having to wait.
I had one more thought when I was following that discussion, was that I was surprised at how often item level requests are made. Was everyone surprised at that? I mean, I thought,
I was.
I mean, 25%, I would not have guessed that, ever. And do we know why?
Well, certainly some of it is the DVDs, TV shows.
There are a lot of book clubs in that. Like when I was looking at the number of item level requests, a lot of like titles requests, obviously, for book clubs.
We do have functionality that allows book clubs to satisfy their needs without recourse to that, but that's a fairly recent addition to Horizon, so I think a lot of book clubs just are continuing to use item-specific requests like they did beforehand.
And there's the fact that when you go down and see if your library has it, there's a request this copy button right next to it, which is probably something that's where people click.
Yep. That's kind of speculation on our part, but I think it's pretty plausible.
Okay. Anyone other input on that? Okay. But yes, this will give us time to work a little bit more on the facets, the rooms, and hopefully get the ERC, the e-reader component. Hopefully that will be released before this point as well, so we'll be able to test with that. That one was something we were iffy on, but we were willing to go live without it. But if we can have it for the testing period before we go live, it'll make us happy. This will allow us to seamlessly, the ERC, if you don't remember, will allow us to seamlessly put in the ebook records so you can check them out, one-click downloads from the catalog, as opposed to having to go to the Overdrive catalog. So for the most part, everything has been delayed. We don't have an exact date on when we're going to have a go live yet. We're thinking it might be as late as February. We're hoping earlier than that. It depends largely on when this next update comes out. So the testing plans, which will include going out to getting feedback from our member librarians, of course, in a public forum, and going out to sites and doing some patron usability testing to see how our patrons react with it. Those have been postponed, but we're still looking forward to doing those at some point. And, well, honestly, work has been slowed down. We're diverting our attention to different projects as the rush isn't quite there for Enterprise at the moment.
Thank you, John. That's very good. They give you some kind of a guarantee that
Well, not a guarantee in a legal sense of the word. It was a strong statement from them that it would be in the next release, but take that for what it's worth, which the people we deal with are people of integrity, and I believe they're sincere, but we've seen them miss updates before. And sometimes things just plain don't work, and you think they're going to work, and then they don't. And you think they're going to work for the next release, and then they don't. I don't have any particular reason to believe that's going to happen, but I've been around the block enough to not want to base any plans off of it either. So if they make the fall release like they say they're going to, then we'll be full speed ahead for winter sometime. If they don't make it, then we're probably looking more at spring.
Yes, ma'am. But I have kind of two follow-ups to that I was thinking about. I mean, have we spent the money? And I guess I'm inclined to think now that we want to test drive the whole car with the wheels, before making the big switch. Whereas before we were maybe thinking that, okay, a promise is good. And so those are my two questions.
We have not paid any money. The quote was accepted, and I signed a memorandum of agreement. So the quote is firm. We have received an invoice, but that was, it's a typical large company. The billing people, as far as they were concerned, I had signed the memorandum of agreement, and we were in the queue. I have since notified them that I'm going to hold the invoice until such time as we go live, and they're fine with that. The price is the price. So instead of spending $15,300 in fiscal 13, it's in the fiscal 14 budget.
And are you thinking that you're going to wait until you get those things that we really need to have? And before we were like, okay, we can go on this, and this is going to come, so we're good.
ERC, in my mind, is an add-on. We don't have it now. So that would actually be a question that we would need to I would bring back to this group. But it seems to me that what we need is, we need apples to apples. So we have Aqua Browser right now that has things like item-specific requests. So we have to have apples to apples. And if the new version gives us better functionality, easier searching, faster data load, because remember, Aqua Browser only gets refreshed at 2 o'clock in the morning.
It's an all-night process.
It's an all-night process. But the new database will be interactive within an hour, we're anticipating. So if your cataloger catalogs it at 9 in the morning, it should be on your screens for searching by 10 or 11 in the morning. So I think that there's enough functionality that if we can get this one major roadblock ready. Now, ERC, the Electronic Resources Center, would be lovely to be able to roll out a new version and lots of new functionality. But if we don't have ERC, it's what we do now. You identify girl with the dragon tattoo in overdrive, and then you go to overdrive.
And I think it's worth pointing out that at this moment, ERC is not late. When we signed on, we were told that ERC was to be released this summer. Will they make that? I don't know. I don't work at the company. But at this moment, we can't say that that product is late. So far, the only delay is item-specific requests.
So the Aqua Browser goes away.
Aqua Browser stays until we're ready to go away.
Part of Enterprise's group.
Enterprise will replace Aqua Browser altogether.
That would be the interface of the patron version.
Mm-hmm. We've had requests from everyone in this room for a mobile version of our catalog. Aqua Browser does not offer one. Aqua Browser does not even have a mobile version on its development list. That isn't the way your patrons are using your library off-site. So we needed to have a product that would get us to what the functionality of what your patrons are using now. So that was one of the big reasons for me.
There should be less logins between the interfaces instead of 3 logins as well in some cases. That should be seamless as well.
That was certainly one of the things that attracted us to that product, is that it does integrate seamlessly with both Horizon as well as other SELCO products, like BookMine, which is their mobile solution. We've had some trouble getting BookMine to work. That's a whole other story. But we are thinking that since we can take our foot off the accelerator just a little bit with Enterprise, that we might be able to focus some attention on BookMine and see if we can get that back on track again. But also, SELCO has rolled out their social library product, which is a Facebook thing, and several other things as well. And they all fit pretty well together. We didn't get Enterprise just for that, but it was certainly an attraction.